Everyone reads many books, different books, which introduce one to different aspects or different parts of spiritual life. But that should be the initial stage. Unfortunately, some people never settle on a particular path. And that's what perhaps Narada is telling, and that's how we can take it from here, take it from his sutra. That yes, initially we need to study different books, but sooner or later, and earlier the better, we should settle on a particular path. And Narada is saying bhakti because he is advocating bhakti. Or it could be any path. So we should settle on it, and then there is no need to read any other thing. We should devote ourselves to the study and practice of the particular path that we have chosen. That is what Narada is cautioning about. Don't let your brain be muddled, or to say it has so many ideas and you just don't know where to go and what to follow. Because there are so many philosophies, so many ways, so many teachings, so many teachers also, so many sampradayas. So we have to settle. That's what Narada is telling. He's saying you settle on Bhakti Shastra. We can settle on any of the Shastras, any of the sampradayas. Just as we have Ishta Devata, we should also have Ishta Sampradaya, so to say. Ishta Sampradaya. So we stick to it. Once we settle on it, we stick to it. We don't unnecessarily read other books. There is no need. Because every Sampradaya, so long as it is authentic, has the potential to lead us Godward to the highest ideal. So there is no need to read hundreds and thousands of books, especially of different sampradayas. There is no need. You settle on one and we follow that, we study it and we follow it. So that is what we should do. He is saying you follow Bhakti Shastra, no need to follow any other Shastra. Fair enough, that is Narada's point of view. But the takeaway is we should settle on a particular sampradaya and follow it. We should not allow our mind to be confused with so many ideas, and then we just don't know where to go forward, how to go forward. We shouldn't land in such a position, in such a situation. We should not land. That's one part. Secondly, he says mananiyani, which means these are not just to be read or heard, but contemplated upon, deliberated upon. See, manana is more deeper than shravana. Manana is when we try to assimilate what we have read or heard. We try to assimilate it, we try to put it in practice. And also we try to form a concise philosophy for ourselves. So we have, in the same sampradaya, we might have read different teachings, which apparently might appear contradictory. So we try to reconcile them. So this idea of synthesizing, reconciling apparently contradictory ideas, that is manana. Or how we can put these into practice. When we try to put this into practice, what difficulties we get to sort those out, that is manana. So all these, this deliberation, it has a practical orientation. It is not just intellectual exercise, but we are trying to adopt that sampradaya, that particular philosophy, that particular ideology wholeheartedly. And hence, we should be fully convinced about it. And when we want to convince about it, there should be no doubts. To removing all those doubts and to be fully convinced about what is being preached, that process, it's called manana. It's a churning process, so to say. The doubts are all raised and then settled. And then we start molding our life in the light of that philosophy. And manana helps in doing that. So he says, mananiyani. And then he gives the second advice, that is tadudbodhaka karmani karaniyani. It is not just enough that we read and understand and try to lead our life in the light of that, but we should also do other things which help generate devotion, which help strengthen devotion. This also we thought in our earlier class we discussed that in every sampradaya there is a group of people who says that only mental exercises are enough. Physical activity, physical efforts, physical aspect of sadhana is not necessary. Just sit and meditate, or sit and pray, or sit and reason, whatever it be your sampradaya. Only mental exercises, mental aspect of sadhana is enough. No physical activity, physical sadhana is not required. That kind of people are always there in every sampradaya. But Narada says, you have to do work. Your love for God has to manifest itself in sacrifice. Sacrifice of your time, of your money, of your mind, of your abilities. You have to do something for God. So the objection is that karma or work is an obstruction in spiritual life, in spiritual progress. But that is not true. Karma is never a distraction. It is the restlessness of the mind which is distraction. Our mind is restless. That is the distraction. The drives in the mind, those are the distractions. What karma does is karma brings those out to the fore. And people who are not honest, they think that it is due to karma all this happening. It is not happening due to karma. But karma is just trying to bring out the attachments and the hatreds and the fears that we have within us. Our actions, when we start working, when we start serving, these bring out all the dirt that we have in our mind. So that is why we shouldn't blame work. Work is only trying to help us by bringing this out. But work has to be done in a right spirit, in a spirit of dedication unto God. And these drives which we come to know when we start working had to be handled intellectually, emotionally, and through cogitation, through reading, through reasoning. So all that happens only when we know that we have these raga, dvesha and all that. Karma brings those out. And in Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna is telling that you can't stay without work even for a second. Your very life, sustenance of life is not possible without work. So you have enough, or you work for the sustenance of your life, but then you won't work for God. You won't work for strengthening of bhakti. That's diabolical. So there are many reasons which Sri Krishna has given. He says that your very nature will force you to work, even if you don't want to work. Even not working is kind of a work, so long as you have egoism. So like that, many reasons he gives. Anyways, but so Narada is saying, you meditate or deliberate on bhakti scriptures, try to follow them in your life and perform such actions which will strengthen devotion. That is his advice. The next sutra is the same, it's an advice for the devotees, for bhaktas. Sukha dukha ichha labhadi tyakte kale pratikshmane kshanardhamapi vyartham na neyam. That is what he's saying. Kale pratikshmane. That is, as so to say, actually this sutra has two interpretations. Kale pratikshmane, as you wait, as one waits. For what? This sukha dukkha ichha labhadi tyakte. This ichha is, everybody we know ichha is desire. Then fulfillment of desire is what is called labha. What one desires, one gets, that is a labha. That labha gives sukha, happiness. But if that labha is somehow destroyed, that leads to misery. Or some obstruction comes in the attainment, then also dukkha comes. So there is ichha, labha, sukha, dukkha. All these, they spring from desire. So sukha, dukkha, ichha, labhadi, tyakte. When these have been removed from our heart, such time, as one waits for a moment, for a time, when all these sukha, dukkha, ichha, labha, idea about gain and loss, desires, happiness, misery, all these ideas, when these have left our heart, the heart has become pure and devotion has taken the place of all these in the heart. As one waits for such a time to come, what should one do? Kshanardhamapi vyartham naneyam. One should not waste even half a moment. That is one interpretation. As devotees, as we wait for that blessed moment of desirelessness, so to say, we should not waste even half a moment. The other interpretation is, being devotees, we have given up to a great extent all these ichcha, labha, sukha, dukkha and all that. And then, having given these up, we should not waste even half a moment. There is another interpretation. But anyway, both can be combined, because see, that complete desirelessness, that comes only when parabhakti dawns in the language of bhakti. In the language of jnana, when jnana dawns, that complete desirelessness will be attained. And then it is perhaps not possible to waste time. So this is mainly more for devotees who have not yet attained that, or bhaktas like most of us, who have not yet attained that perfect desirelessness. But bhakta's life is much simple than the life of an ordinary worldly person, so to say, person who is not spiritual, who is not a bhakta, who doesn't have higher aspirations. Such a person's life is very complicated. At least that's how the devotees feel. Such person's life is very complicated. Right from he or she has to start about physical appearance, how I look physically in the public. So much time is spent on that. And you see, so much money and time and energy is spent on looking whatever one feels to look like, whatever they call it. So much time is spent on that. And then there is how people perceive me, the personality, so to say. They have to maintain a certain personality in the public. And then the equations with other people, equations with relatives, then social equations, and managing the egos of other people, responding to social calls, inviting people, and so much time they have to spend. And apart from that, they have their own desires and fears and hatreds and competition. No wonder they have very little time left for thinking of higher ideals. And it's a very complex life, basically. So much of calculation they have to keep on doing in their mind and all that. But devotee's life is much simpler, so to say. See, Narada says, Loka hanau chinta na karya. Don't bother about losing the world, to put it a literal translation. Don't about losing the world. What it means is that don't worry so much about how people perceive you and all that. Bhakta has his or her value system. I'm not saying he or she behaves in the way he or she wants to behave. It's not that. Bhakta has his or her value system, which is followed very rigorously. But that value system makes his or her life much simpler. It's not much bothered about how we appear in the world or how people perceive us, and taking care of all these people around us and all that. People who are immediate and who depend on us, yes, Bhakta will look after. But basically the point is, as one moves in spiritual life, one's engagement with the world, one's entanglements with the world reduce. As this reduce, one gets a lot of, I would call it psychological bandwidth, mental space, free space in mind. Mental energy is conserved, so to say. And also time. Time is also saved for a bhakta as one progresses. And this is a spectrum. I mean, it's a journey from little time to more time. It's a journey from little bandwidth to more bandwidth. It's a journey. When we start spiritual life, we start getting little bandwidth, psychological bandwidth, little more time we get free. And as we progress, we keep on getting more and more time. Now, logically, and it should happen like this, we free ourselves from the world because we want to engage more in spiritual life. We want to devote more and more time. We want to love God more and more. And we, so to say, withdraw ourselves from the world to the extent that is possible. So this caution of Narada actually should not be necessary, because a person withdraws from the world and gets time and that psychological bandwidth because he or she has attached himself or herself more to spiritual life, more to God. So there should be no need for caution. But Narada is giving a caution. He's saying when you have given up these Ichcha, Dvesha and all that, you have a lot of time, you have a lot of bandwidth. Don't waste it. Kshanardhamapa vyartham naneyam. This means there is danger. There is this danger. When we withdraw ourselves from the world and try to move towards God, there is danger that one might slip into tamas, into laziness, into fruitless gossiping, into seemingly harmless amusements. There is danger. Otherwise, Narada would not have given this warning. Logically, yes, there should be no scope for such warning, no need for such warning. I am getting attached to God, I am withdrawing from the world. There is no scope for such warning. But practically, it appears that devotee, in this transition, in this journey, there is a danger that one may slip into inadvertence, one may slip into laziness, one may slip into fruitless gossiping and amusement and all that, harmless. But the point is, it doesn't take a long time from the mind descending from harmless to harmful activities. That's the point. It doesn't take long for the mind to descend from harmless, seemingly harmless engagements to harmful engagements. And that's why Narada is telling, Kshanardhamapi vyartham na neyam. This is a word of caution, sounding a warning for the devotee. Don't waste even half a moment. Because what are you going to do in that half a moment if you are wasting it? That is the point. See, he's talking of what is called tension of purpose. You know, devotee doesn't have tension of distraction, but he or she has tension of purpose. We should have this tension of purpose. You know, that pull of the ideal. It should always be felt, and then only it is possible. This kshanardhamapi vyartham naneyam. See, once Swamiji used to say, see, these people who are money-minded, at the end of the day, they will keep accounts of every pie. How much we earn, how much we spent, what is the profit, what is the loss. Till that they have done it, they cannot sleep. They have to have that account. And every sadhaka should also keep an account of time. Since morning till evening, every second, how it was spent. Whether it was spent fruitfully or fruitlessly, whether the opportunity was lost, whether we failed, whether we slipped, whether we dealt in inadvertence, everything, the account has to be done. And we have to correct ourselves the next day. So every day, this kshana, every moment, every minute has to be accounted for. And as I was saying, this we cannot be so particular about our time unless we have that pull of the ideal. That's most important, and perhaps that's what Narada is driving at. We should feel the pull of that ideal. What is the goal of our life? Where we are heading? And when that pull is there, then we won't have this wasting of time. Then we won't feel like wasting time. We have started out, it's a journey, we have started out to go somewhere. No doubt there would be distractions. There would be need for rest, so to say. But it should only be minimum, absolutely necessary rest. And distractions should be avoided. And that pull of the ideal should keep us moving forward, moving onward. That is the point. And so that's what Narada is telling us, that as you free yourself from these worldly entanglements and move towards God, there is a chance or there is a danger that you may slip into this laziness and fruitless activities. The energy and time thus saved should be fruitfully used to cultivate devotion. That's the point. That is moving forward towards God in whichever way. It doesn't matter what way, whether we are reading or serving or meditating or doing kirtan, whichever way it is. Seva, whatever. Our regular work, day to day work, looking after the family, all this is part of serving God. But that purpose, that intention should be there, that this is where I want to go. That is the goal. And the pull of that ideal should be felt. Then we won't be wasting our time. So that's what he said. And of course, next sutra gives some more hints how we should live. So it was ahimsa, satya, shaucha, daya, astikyadini, charityadini, charityani, paripalaniyani. That is the sutra, next sutra. According to some, yeah, this is how bhakta spends his or her time. Or this becomes, so to say, preoccupation with bhakta. That is, pursuit of these values. Narada lists few values: ahimsa, satya, shaucha, daya, astikya, charitrani. These are, so to say, life molding values. These have to be followed. These are moral values. They are called in Yoga Sutra yama and niyama. These are universal, so to say, moral disciplines. And Narada says bhakta should follow these moral disciplines. That is the next sutra. Now you see this morality, it is the foundation of spirituality. We have to understand this. It's very important to understand. Morality is foundation of spirituality. Unless one is moral, ethical, spiritual life for such a person, serious spiritual life is not possible. Genuine spiritual life is not possible for such a person who is not moral. So Narada is listing these moral disciplines which devotee engages or guides his or her life with. These moral disciplines. He lists only few, there are many others. So he says Adi are there. Anyway, so first is ahimsa, then there is satya, then there is daya, shaucha, purity, and there is astikya. All these moral disciplines he has put. Being spiritual, it can never be a concession for overlooking these moral values or disciplines. It is impossible. If a person has become spiritual genuinely, he or she has become so only after following rigorously the moral disciplines. So if a so-called spiritual person is overlooking certain of these moral disciplines, we can straightway say, question his or her spirituality. It is impossible to be spiritual without being moral. And we will see in next class. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.